Hi, everyone. I'm Dylan McGee, founder and executive producer of Makers, coming to you live from my home in Westchester, New York. For those of you who are new to Makers at Home, this is really our attempt to really connect with our makers and our friends of makers and hear how they're doing, how they're coping, because we're all going through this collective experience together, and also get insight into the work that they're doing, because everyone we talk to is an extraordinary champion of women. Today's guest is the CEO of Time's Up, my friend Tchen. I met Tchen at the White House. Sounds very fancy. But she is fancy. She's fancy and smart and brilliant. Tina had many roles at the White House. The last one was the chief of staff for Michelle Obama. Pinch me now. And lucky Michelle Obama. She did the Council on Women and Girls, the Let Girls Learn. Helping women and girls is in the DNA of Tina Tchen through and through for her entire career. And if you haven't already, please watch her Makers profile. Just Google Makers Tina Tchen and give yourself that 5-minute gift of inspiration. Tina recently spoke in February at our Makers Conference, and she's spoken at other conferences as well. And what my secret love of Tina is she can speak in front of thousands of people, one person, and she's always magical. But she's also an incredible audience member. Her laugh is infectious. She's there for you. She makes you feel really good. So I think we all need to feel really good right now. So let's go live to Tina Tchen. Tina, here I come. Oh, there she is. Okay, here we go. Waiting for Tina Tchen. It's all coming together. Yay!
Yay! We did it. We did it. Although I have to
I
confess, it is my daughter Emma who actually made it happen.
Come on,
Because
Emma.
I
Poke
cannot
your head
technologically
in, Emma. We
do
want
it.
to see you. Where's Emma?
Emma, here she
Emma,
is.
give a little cameo. Hi, Emma. Thank you. Your mom can do a lot of things, but maybe not Instagram Live.
Yeah, that's kind of technology is not my strong. I can talk, Dylan, but technology is not it.
So where are you, Tina? You're in Chicago.
I'm in Chicago. This is our house in Chicago.
Okay.
Emma is a college graduate last year and came home and moved home with me, which is really fortunate that happened because she's here with me together. In Chicago, where we had 2 inches of snow this morning. So the snow is now, yeah. It's April 15th and it was 2 inches of snow this morning.
Not only do we have a pandemic, but we also have a global. Anyway, we're not talking about that today.
Yeah, we're not doing climate change.
But have you and Emma been enjoying your time together?
Well, that, though the silver lining in this, I think, for a lot of families is the opportunity to spend more time and be closer together. Our dog is really happy. You may hear him at some point during this, because we're here all the time. He gets walks. He's gets people to play with all day long. So that has been a benefit, but it is otherwise such a tough time for so many people.
And I really want to get to, in all of these Makers at Home, we're talking to everyone about the 3 things that are getting them through. And so I want to hear about that. I want to hear about you more. But first, it's you are heading a really important organization right now. And, when I think about Time's Up and the work you're doing, even before all of this, just tackling, making sure women can live up to their full potential in the workplace was such a big issue. And I'm just wondering, how has that now shifted for you?
Well, if anything, Dylan, it's made the work actually even more urgent, right?
Yeah.
Because it has revealed, I think what this epidemic has revealed is all the structural issues that women have faced and all of, for example, how many women are women on the front lines. And we actually have a campaign going on right now, hashtag women on the front lines, to tell the story of the 83% of healthcare workers who are women, right? Who are the nurses, the orderlies, the patient assistants, the janitorial staff, right? And the physicians who are leading the charge. I'm so proud of some of our Times Up healthcare leaders like Dr. Esther Chu, who really started the Get Me My PPE work, and Dara Cass. These are some of the country's leading ER docs who've been sacrificing themselves and their families' well-being to keep the rest of us healthy.
And is that right? Did you say 83%? Is that the stat? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and these are, you know, plus, you know, all the women who are on the front lines of caregiving, you know, not just in hospitals, but in homes and in nursing homes, you know, the women who are in farm worker women, you know, the grocery store workers who are keeping our food supply chain going, all putting themselves at risk at this. And, you know, so that's the first issue, right, is that we've got these frontline vulnerable women who aren't getting paid a lot of money, who don't have a lot of savings to fall back on as we head into a recession. So we are doubling down to make that point. And then, you know, we've talked a lot about structural barriers. You and I have talked about it, right? The structural barriers like the lack of equal pay, the lack of fair pay and promotion, the lack of paid leave and paid sick leave. And now I think the whole country sees it, because think about it. Right? If we we are one of only 2 industrialized countries in the world that did not have a national paid sick leave policy going into this crisis. Now we have an emergency one that's been cobbled together, but think about it. If we had paid sick leave, if businesses had already assumed the cost, built them into their business plans, if workers knew at the start of the crisis that they had paid sick leave they could take without risking their jobs and their livelihoods, think how much better positioned we would be right now. And that's a really sharp example of the kinds of changes we need to make for the long run, right? Now that we're in this recession and recovery, we can build the opportunity, I keep saying, out of a crisis is the opportunity to rebuild our economy on principles of safety and dignity and fairness for everyone. And that just has made our work even more urgent.
Well, you just hate to think that you needed something like this to wake, you know, policymakers up and, you know, to make these change. But it will be really interesting, I think, Tina, to also look at how other countries who had existing paid leave, as you said, who already had built-in infrastructure to, you know, into their budgets, and how they will fare versus us. But I do sleep better at night knowing that you and Time's Up are helping on this paid leave cause, because it's something that makers have spent a lot of time on. And you know, I do hope that is one silver lining out of all of this.
Well, I will say one of the things everybody can do right now is if you text the words paid sick leave now to 30644, right, which is our, you know, text to action, you'll get connected with legislators, you know, the members of Congress right now who need to hear how urgent it is to make these temporary protections, expand them, right? Because there's huge loopholes, like businesses over 500 and small businesses that get exempted. So they got to fix the loopholes, and then they've got to make paid sick leave permanent, right, for everybody.
Absolutely.
To be ongoing.
Wait, so say it again. What do we have to do?
The words paid sick leave now to 30644.
30644. You heard it from @Tina Tchen, CEO of Time's Up. All right. And, you know, we're supposed to do little chapter breaks. So I'm Dylan McGee, founder and executive producer of Makers, talking to the CEO of Time's Up, my friend Tina Tchen. So Tina, tell me specifically about, you know, women of color. You know, you talk about women on the front lines, and women of color right now are really, you know, whether it's, you know, Asian women and the racism that's being faced there, the women of color who, as you say, the domestic workers, the Latinas. I mean, how are you addressing that as well?
Well, that's why we need to keep these workers front and center, you know, on the needs. You know, the folks who are putting their lives at risk without PPE, right? These factory workers, you know, the food processing workers, you know, these are women. These are largely women of color that need, you know, to have those protections. In addition, the women who lost their jobs, right? You know, women overwhelmingly have less savings. They're, in lower paying jobs where they're getting paid less than, $11 an hour. So they don't have a nest egg to fall back on when all of a sudden their paycheck goes away. They're also the people who are relying on school lunches for their kids to keep their kids fed. This is this vulnerable population. And I live in Chicago, where we're dealing right now with this disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on our African-American population here in Chicago. And again, that's affecting Black women on the South Side and the West Side of Chicago. And I have to give a shout out to our mayor, Lori Lightfoot, who's like taking this on hand, and really addressing this and saying, this is unacceptable, not just during a pandemic, but at any time for us to see these kinds of disparities.
I have to say, there is a story also in these female mayors.
Yeah.
We were talking about the other day, Katie Kirk and I were talking about, Amy Lane, I'm going to forget her name again, the mayor of San Francisco. Do you remember?
Yes. And then there's a woman mayor of Seattle too.
The woman mayor of Seattle. That's what I mean. I love these women coming forward.
Well, if you just want to giggle, and you got to know Lori a little bit. So our mayor, Lori Lightfoot, she's all of 5'1".
London Breed. Sorry, London Breed. Thank you, Amy.
Right. Yeah, she's, Lori is all of, 5'1", and she's taken a very stern posture at the podium where she says, stay home, and when the people were out on the lakefront, she drove by and she said, you didn't listen to me. Now I'm shutting the lakefront. There is a meme. So if you go on Instagram to hashtag where's Lightfoot, you will see Lori photoshopped into all sorts of places, Chicago landmarks, get home, in front of people's houses, get home. It's pretty great. She's become, well-deservedly a great personality and spokesperson for us.
Okay, well, we're going to give her a little maker's love. That's terrific. Especially, I loved her, the first mention you made. And then when I found out she's 5'1" from a 5 foot tall woman, I love her even more.
Right.
So we're kindred spirits. Although I'm happy not to be a mayor right now, I will admit. So Tina, before we move on, I want to go to the 3 things. I'm really excited to talk to you about that. Is there anything else that we can do to support Time's Up and you and the work you're doing besides our texting?
Yeah, well, in addition to texting paid sick leave now to get connected to your legislator, if you want to join us, right, get our information, stay in touch with us, you can just text the word just now, NOW, to 30644. You will get updated on everything that we're doing. For example, in addition, you can send your stories. We want to hear about your stories as being a woman on the front line or a woman on the front line who you admire, who's helping you out or is in your neighborhood. So you can text their stories on Twitter and Instagram to hashtag women on the front line. So we're going to feature those stories and elevate them, because now when we look forward, the policy work we have to do to get companies to change, to get public policy to change, is to feature those stories, to say these are the issues we need to address, like equal pay, like fair pay and promotion, like companies need to start thinking about, if they've laid people off, how are they bringing people back? Are they bringing back people fairly? Like not just bringing back the men, bring back women and people of color and LGBTQ and disabled workers in equal numbers as they're bringing back, white male workers. Those are the kinds of things we got to think about in the rebuilding process.
One of the, we have this incredible board of women at Makers, and we had a board meeting this morning, and we, 2 members were sharing information on, one member was saying, I'm actually in my HR position helping place my people in other companies. She said, I never thought I would do that, but that's also this amazing thing that's happening is companies can really, if they're hiring, they can go to other companies and work together in this. There is something I'm hopeful that companies will really, think about workers first and human beings first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the message. I mean, I really do believe fundamentally, our mission here, you've heard me say this before, I took this job in November because I believed post-Weinstein in this moment that we were at a moment of transformational change in our country, right? Really, we could change the way workplaces operated. And I feel that even more urgently now, right? That this recession tells us we should be rebuilding in a transformational way that puts workers at the center, right? Investing in workers, because they are still, if you're a company leader, they are your talent base, right? And customers are looking to see how you would treat your workers and whether they're going to, buy goods and services from you as they come out of this recession.
Invest in workers, people first.
Absolutely.
Time's up. Did they not hear that? Time's up, people. And also, look, my sweater is not done.
Oh, As we know,
as we know
from
this
the
was
Makers
the theme
Conference,
of Makers. Tina sat down. We have a documentary coming out this fall on PBS that Tina will be front and center in everything we do. All right, so Tina, what are the 3 things that are getting you through all of this?
All right. Well, some of it is my team, right? So my team at Time's Up, we've been doing like everyone else, lots of Zoom calls. We do, in addition to our meetings by Zoom, one of the fun things we've been doing is break room. So 3 times a week for about a half an hour or so. Anybody can join. It's not mandatory. We do a little break room. And we're tapping into the amazing talents of our team. Like today, one of our folks led us in sort of a meditative breathing exercise, right? We've had one of our team, who did, sort of led on a journaling, kind of like a little workshop. So it's both an opportunity for everybody to show another side, but to sort of share just a little break and, sharing time. So that's been great.
I love that. Yeah. We've been doing that on the Makers team too. We call it, I like break room. Ours is called the water cooler.
Oh, well, there you go.
Right? It's this idea of convening together. And don't you feel like you're getting to know people at a different level in many ways?
Yeah, no, that's great. Plus the other surprising thing is, have you been hearing from people you haven't heard from in a long time? Right? And I've been doing the same thing.
Sometimes that's not a good thing. I'm like, how many Zooms do I need to do with you, my middle school play?
This is true. This is true. But it has been sort of nice to hear from people from different parts of my life who've just checking in, which causes me to go check in with somebody else. So that's been great. Em and I have been doing a lot of cooking, like everybody else, right? Sort of working our way through, every recipe that we've kind of dreamed up. Emma made donuts the other day, from scratch. That's a good,
Do you have to fry
yeah.
donuts?
Yeah, she did the whole thing, the yeast, the rising. We were one of the few people, actually, I had yeast in my pantry. I had yeast, but I had it in my pantry from Christmas. Not that I could have bought it anyplace, right?
No.
So, yeah. So we had that. And then I will confess that my final thing is, yes, we have been binge watching, right? Good. We had started Grey's Anatomy from episode 1. Actually, a couple months ago, we had decided we were going to work our way through all 16 seasons of Grey's Anatomy because I'd never done it before. We just caught up, right now, as they've just ended, we just caught up and finished Grey's. And so now, all right, so this is a side of me, Dylan, that people don't really know about, is that actually I'm a little bit of a sci-fi geek. We are our Marvel Universe household, and so, Em and I are in the process of watching all of the Marvel Universe movies in chronological order, right? Which starts with our favorite Captain Marvel, right? And then works your way chronologically through them. So we're sort of halfway through that.
Wait, so how many are there?
There's 23, right? 23? 24. There's 24.
24. And you're how many in?
So we're sort of 8 or 9 in, I think.
I will admit to you, I am not a sci-fi person, but I am married to one, and I have one son who is, so we did Star Wars from the beginning to end, which I thought was going to be, but you make the connections. There's something magical, right? So is that happening with you and Emma?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's not, we've seen these movies before, but I gotta tell you, when you watch them in order, and I give credit to the Marvel writers because they planted things. They plant something in movie 2 that doesn't get referenced again until movie 7, right? I mean, it's really clever that way, so that's what's kind of fun.
And what's your, one of the things we just keep hearing, there's a collective trauma that we're all going through right now. And I'm curious what your mental health needs are. For me, meditation doesn't work for me, but someone mentioned journaling, and I've been trying that. I'm curious what's working for you in that space.
It's hard. I mean, it really is hard. And I think we're all going up and down. This has gone on now for a long time. So it's the isolation. So, I have happily, I have not had anyone in my family who's passed or gotten really ill, but I'm now at the point where I have several friends, right, who've lost parents, who've lost other friends, and this inability even to gather, right, to go to your family at a time when you've lost someone. Or, actually I did lose a neighbor, to the virus. And, I've been texting and calling his wife and waving to her on the street, but I can't go to her house, right? You can't hug her, and the thing that you want most to do in those moments. So it gets hard, and I do go up and down. I've had those. I think it's all inevitable. And
Sisters Like Us win. Writing poetry has helped.
Yeah. Well, I confess I'm not that creative.
Me neither.
I'm not that creative. That's actually when I go outside. I mean, that's when actually some fresh air, a little bit of take the dog out around the block, a reminder. When it's not snowing, it is starting to be spring here, so
that's
you get a little bit of that.
Right? Some warmer weather.
We did, yeah.
I picture you as a reader. Is there anything you're reading?
I am. What is it? I'm actually part of, some of my old girlfriends have a book group, which I'm, more and less good at. And we just read The Best and the Beautiful, this fabulous book about, women in a story about Mumbai that's really graphic. And
well, you have to let us know, because we want to share what our makers.
No, I will look that up and share it. But it was, and it was hard to read right now, because this was a really beautifully written but very detailed story about what it was like to live in the slums of Mumbai. Mm-hmm. And all your mind went to in reading it was, oh my God, what are they doing now with this virus and this shutdown in India as well? As impoverished and as hard as life was, even under normal conditions, what they must be going through now.
And I know that there's a global, that leads me to Tina. We did have an audience question about Time's Up Global. I mean, are you focusing your efforts now here? And
so we've stayed focused here. And in part there, we have one overseas branch, which is Time's Up UK. That really was led by Emma Watson. Started, Emma launched it.
Emma, who's she? I only know Emma, your daughter.
I know. But in addition to the famous Emma Tchen, there is Emma Watson. And so Emma Watson started that. They've been doing some legal services referrals as well in the UK. But when we launched it, we realized it's really some of the work that we're doing is really complicated to organize well, especially things like the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, because legal jurisdictions are hard.
It's Emma Watson's birthday today, Tina. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, happy birthday, Emma Watson.
Happy birthday, Emma.
Yeah. So there are only official overseas, but our ambition, absolutely, Dylan, is, I've heard organically of women who have sprouted up. I talked recently to Rachel Vogelstein, who is a policy person, worked for Hillary Clinton she's now at the Council of Foreign Relations. She's doing a book right now, and she told me she's been interviewing people around the globe, and they've talked about women in Brazil and women in India and elsewhere that have organically, watching what we're doing here in the United States, come together around Time's Up and Me Too. And so that, we want to grow. We want to grow and expand and bring this work in a more formal way to women around the world. We're just, you want to grow. You got to grow.
You got to grow at the right pace. With you, Tina, at the helm, I have no doubt that you could do whatever you want. And really, I'm excited about our upcoming documentary, because a lot of it talks about the origins of Time's Up and how you all came together and the impact that you're making. It really is, whenever something happens in the world where I get angry, I go online and Time's Up has responded in some way, telling me what action I can take, or giving me a story that I need to tell, and so it's, from the policy work to the storytelling, it's extraordinary what you guys are doing. And so I am grateful to you. I'm happy that you and Emma are safe in Chicago. And please, as we will help you as you tell those stories of women on the front lines. We're here to support you in any way we can.
Well, you always have been, Dylan. You really, from those early days in the White House, I'm so grateful to what you do at Makers and all the makers, the makers community, and, for always being supportive of me and of the work. So really, I appreciate it so much. And it's so great to see you and your home in this moment.
So I want a hug too. I'm giving you a virtual hug.
Right.
And your laugh makes me it fills me for the rest of the week. I may have to have a little weekly Tina check-in with you. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was famous for it within the White House too, and the President Obama having to sort of shush me at various moments. Yeah, I was known for that there too.
There's no shushing for me. I'm like, Amplify. All right, Tina. Well, great to see you. Sending lots of love, and keep fighting the good fight.
Oh, thank you, Dylan. And, hello, and thank you to all the makers out there. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Mwah.